I hereby call this meeting of the Norwood City Council to order. Please rise for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. This evening, we don't have anyone to do the invocation, so we'll have 60 seconds of reflection. Thank you. Now for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Mrs. Franzen.
Here.
Mrs. Hoover.
Here.
Ms. Royce.
Here.
Mr. Kelch.
Here.
Mrs. Winterbauer.
Here.
Mr. Thompson. Here. Mr. Braden.
Here.
All members present. Moving on to item E, amendment of agenda. This evening, we are adding 2 ordinances to the agenda. The first will be M7, ordinance authorizing the Safety Service Director to enter into an agreement not to exceed $205,000 to replace a failed 42-inch storm sewer along Forest Avenue and declaring an emergency. Then we will add item M8, ordinance authorizing the Safety Service Director to enter into an agreement not to exceed $150,000 to replace a failed 24-inch storm sewer alongside westbound State Route 562 and declaring an emergency. Mr. Thompson.
I move that we amend the agenda as you stated.
Motion by Mr. Thompson to amend the agenda as stated. Ms. Royce?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Royce. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Franzen.
Yes.
Mrs. Hoover.
Yes.
Ms. Royce.
Yes.
Mr. Kelch.
Yes.
Mrs. Winterbauer.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Braden.
Yes, sir.
All members present, voting aye, the motion passes. Moving on to item F, minutes of previous meeting, January 10th, 2023, regular meeting. Ms. Winterbauer.
Motion to receive and file the minutes.
Motion by Mrs. Winterbauer to receive and file the minutes. Mrs. Hoover.
I'll second.
Second by Mrs. Hoover. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Franzen.
Yes.
Mrs. Hoover.
Yes.
Ms. Royce.
Yes.
Mr. Kelch.
Yes.
Mrs. Winterbauer.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Braden.
Yes, sir.
All members present, voting aye, motion passes. Moving on to item H, public hearings. I hereby declare this public hearing open. Item H1, the Norwood City Council hereby gives notice that it will hold a public hearing to consider the application of Playing Card Partners, LLC Factory 52, for the creation of a Community Entertainment District, CED, under Revised Code 4301.80 at the meeting taking place Tuesday, January 24th, 2023 at 7:30 p.m. in the Norwood City Hall Auditorium, second floor, 4645 Montgomery Road, Norwood, Ohio, 45212. The application is on file in the office of the Clerk of Council of the City of Norwood and is available for inspection by the public during regular business hours outside of the Clerk of Council's office, second floor, 4645 Montgomery Road, Norwood, Ohio, 45212. Do I have anyone who would like to speak in favor?
Nicholas Lingenfelter, 101 Lexington Drive, on behalf of the developer and part owner in the project. Thank you for taking an initial look at this today. I do appreciate it. I think what I want to make sure of is we just kind of set the tone for what this exactly does. So, as part of our development, we want to have restaurants and other places open for business. Obviously, there is a pretty limited number of liquor licenses in the city of Norwood because the population is just around 19,700. Once the city hits 20,000, it opens a whole new level of buckets, but we aren't actually able to get there until we have about 20,000 residents. Because there aren't enough licenses for the restaurants to open, we had to find an alternative route for how to make that work. You can do that through a community entertainment district. Many cities have quite a few of these. They're done in other places. There's actually a cap. So once the population gets above a certain threshold, Norwood could add other districts, allow the business district to expand, have other ways to do that. If you actually notice, what we did is we took our parcel and we had to use contiguous parcels to find a way to connect them to allow us to get up to that. So for every 5 acres that we have, that gives you 1 license. So again, you're capped at 15, so 75 acres roughly is where it gets capped at. We did take that down to the hotel site because we've been talking about how the goal is to allow retail to operate there. There's quite a few things that we have to get there as well, but again, if we want a restaurant, if we want somebody else to be able to open, right now they can't get a license to actually open because the majority of that's used by Rookwood. I think the important thing to note about this as well is this is not just a blanket, there are licenses out there. Every single business has to still come before you to apply for a liquor license. All this does is allow the council to have a tool to create that bucket. That's it. So you're not saying there's 15 licenses out there, they're all guaranteed. That's not what it is. Everybody still has to apply. Everybody still has to go through the same process. It's a tool that's been made available through the State of Ohio's Economic Development Group. There's literally, everything is a normal process. It's just a tool to open up more licenses where there's none available. Obviously, we have the 2 breweries that are coming in that everybody's aware of. They can get a brewer's license. But any other restaurant, any other sit-down type of place that wants to open and operate has to have a license, and there's none available. So that's why this is in front of you today, and I gladly would take any questions that you have.
Anyone have any questions?
Yes, ma'am.
This is more of a clarification just for everyone watching at home. So with this, it's not changing any zoning. The zoning is still exactly the same. It's not saying that wherever this is, you can definitely build a bar. This is only for restaurants.
Bars, so it'd be the same thing. It's the
Sorry,
same
yes.
liquor license. It's a D5 license.
And basically anywhere where that would be allowed, it's
Correct.
allowed. It doesn't make it so a place where it wasn't allowed, it would be allowed now. So it's not changing a residential zoning place to.
Absolutely. That would still have to come before you. You would
Right.
still have to rezone it. Everything around us, this is zone manufacturing. It's still zone manufacturing. Nothing is changing to that extent. We've also intentionally not put any residential parcels into that district.
Cool. I just wanted to kind of have that out so that people know that it's not a zoning change and it's not going to make it so a new restaurant can open up next door to your uncle and aunt's house. I don't know, just, that's something people were wondering about.
Completely. Yep.
Anyone else? Mr. Thompson?
Just to clarify, the liquor licenses have to be used within the new district?
Within that district only, correct.
Mrs. Winberg?
How many restaurants are you expecting to be available in both areas?
Right now, we have 5 lined up that would be in some capacity. So the pickleball facility obviously would have one, the food hall would have one, the breweries would qualify under their own. We're working on 2 full-service restaurants that would need some in some capacity, and the coffee shop and wine bar would also need one as well because they would have to operate separately. So that would use roughly 5 just in those initial group. And they'd still have to come back to you and apply.
And another clarification thing. So within this district, this is not just your property, correct? There are
Correct.
some contiguous lots that are not owned by PLK.
Correct, yes.
And people who wanted to make a restaurant, for instance, on one of those lots would be able to apply for that, the same as Factory 52 or the New Quality Inn.
Correct, and then not affect the city's allocation either.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Mrs. Winterbauer?
I had some residents wondering if you discussed it with any other property owners in the area, or have had any conversations with anyone else?
We've definitely talked to our adjacent neighbors. They're pretty much indifferent to it. They have no plans to change what they're doing, but they know long-term if something ever happened there, to have that tool in place makes them more marketable.
Anyone else? Mrs. Hoover?
I have sort of an odd question. I'm aware that this property, or the entertainment district overlays the Salvation Army, and,
It does not. We carved it out.
okay,
They specifically didn't want to be a part of it. We knew that already. So if you look at the map, it should
okay,
carve
you're
out their
right.
parcel.
Thank you.
Because it's a rehab facility, we did not want to offend them in that capacity.
So going around them, that does not impact them in any way? Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Mrs. Winterbauer?
There was some concerns voiced, and if you could just go into it a little bit. I know you said, you need X amount of acreage for X number of liquor licenses. Right now, maybe 5 that you know of that you need. So some residents are just concerned, that other side of Park is residential. I know it's not in the entertainment district, and then you have some industrial there. Can you just explain to people listening if there would be any impact to those residents, kind of what your thoughts were just with that section on Park Avenue being marked as an entertainment district?
So what would happen, the only way that that would happen is if who knows, if those businesses go out, somebody decides to redevelop that all comes before council, you would have a larger conversation that would occur at that point. But at this point, they're not for sale. So, but I think the community would be significantly more involved and understand that that whole thing is going through a rezone, and if that was happening, they would know what's going on near their homes. But that, we intentionally made sure not to put any houses in there because we did not want people to think that we were coming for their house. That's not what we're trying to do at all. It's actually a decent long-term planning solution because if those do get redeveloped, you have the tool in place. That would make it easier for them to operate.
Mrs. Franzen?
And potentially with the CED, from what I've read, it can be expanded or reduced in size by a motion of council similar to this, where we have a public hearing and either expand it or reduce it depending on what we would want. That's correct, right?
Correct, and we didn't need to make it as big as we did. The reason we did was we wanted to make sure the hotel site had the ability to go
Yeah.
market towards restaurants.
Right.
75 acres is the cap. I think we're right around 100 or so.
Right.
And the only reason why was to make sure, as we marketed that site's ground floor retail, that we knew that we could tell potential tenants
That we
that
definitely,
they had something available, and they wouldn't just walk away.
thank you.
Mrs. Winterbauer?
More question. So kind of going to, I know Dora was mentioned in that application, which I love. We're all very excited for Factory 52 and all of that. Would the Dora, and this is me just not knowing, be expanded to the whole entertainment district? Some people were worried about, like, if people were walking with beverages down Park, or would the Dora be a different, within the entertainment, or would it be the whole thing?
The door would just be on our specific property that we own at this time.
Okay.
I don't foresee that being something bigger because I don't know how you connect it.
Okay.
Now, as from a city perspective, potentially the city manager, or I'm sorry, safety service director could cover that. I believe Dora's in Ohio can be like 1,000 acres now. There's a lot of different law changes. We were just focusing on our property. So at this point, that's all we were trying to do. And we were trying to make sure as we built out the next parcels along the highway, we wanted to go market towards some larger restaurants. We needed them to know that it was available, or they're worried about how do I Trex it in and what else do I do? And we wanted them to know that no, with this tool, you can open here and you can make that investment.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor of the application?
Good evening, Bishop Sonny James. I just want to say, first and foremost, what I love about this development, everything starts at the leadership. So the head goes, the body follows. And since I met Nick, Eric, Colleen, and his crew, they have been people of integrity. And why is it so important that our public understand that? Because they have an intention to bring even a higher level of quality to our community. So for years, folks have been looking at Oakley and Hyde Park and other perceived to be high-end places. Well, if the residents of Norwood take a look at it, we've got some pretty decent corporate partners that have moved into Norwood. And to have an entertainment district really just brings the concept of like a city within our city to where it's kind of like a one-stop shop. Years ago, I had an office, and we moved to Dayton, and all the clergy, Hamilton County commissioners and everyone, we all loaded up on a bus, and we went to Dayton to go take a look at my office up there. And they were blown away when you bring all the things that people really want together in close proximity. It really becomes consumer friendly. And really, as they are pressing their way to meet every TIF, every ordinance, I want to just let the residents know this is a project where diversity has definitely been made a priority, and it's going to be something that's going to give our city something to be so proud of. And so you folks sitting here and those watching and listening have an opportunity to be a part of this. This is history in the making. And so when we work together, Norwood has always proven we can make it happen. Teamwork makes the dream work. And so I would urge all of the residents, even if you have questions, Nick and his crew's always been open, always have had an open door policy as far as I'm concerned. And when you do that, it makes people feel included. It makes people feel a part. Even though it's their development, I think it's just as much my development as it is theirs, because they allow you to take ownership. So I just want to, in closing, ask our residents, those that aren't here, that wanted to speak or what have you, please support this district, because it's going to take Norwood to a whole nother level. And I'm proud to say I'm glad they're in Norwood, Ohio. God bless you guys.
Anyone else that would like to speak in favor of the application?
Hello, my name is Natalie Sundelbach. I am a student at Xavier University, so it's always fun to have a Xavier person come to these. I know on behalf of our college community and a lot of our undergraduate students, we're very, very, very excited to have this entertainment district come to Norwood. No one likes an Uber to the banks. Thank you so much.
Anyone else to speak in favor of the application? Anyone who wants to speak against the application? Please come forward. Having seen no one, then we'll close this public hearing. I hereby close this public hearing. Moving on to item I, request to address council. We have 3 requests to address council this evening. I will read them in the order they were presented to me. First one is Kate Wetzel.
Thank you very much. I am here again today to talk about the Gem the Community event that is coming up on February 23rd. You still have time to nominate one of your favorite Norwood neighbors who have done great things in the community in 2022. The event is on the 23rd. It starts at 5:30 at the Ventura. Everyone's welcome. We just ask that you go to norwoodtogether.org and register. And then you can also nominate your neighbors there. The nominations are open until February 3rd. So hopefully I'll see everyone there. Thanks.
Thank you.
Oh, question, sorry.
Mrs. Hoover.
Thank you. Does the individual need to be a resident of Norwood or someone who does work in Norwood?
Resident of Norwood.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you. Our next request to address council, Bishop Sonny James.
Good evening again. It gives me great pleasure, guys. I haven't really been this excited in a while. A couple of things. Last week, I really had the privilege of attending Streets and Infrastructure meeting. And some of the things here in the public hearing were discussed in terms of streets and things like that. And I was so impressed because coming in the building, I had to be redirected on where to go because we not only had one big meeting going on, we had 3 big meetings going on. And person after person was like, Bishop, where are you trying to get to? I was like, I'm not in the right place. And they were like, probably not. And they were so kind to help direct me to that meeting. And the reason that I have to speak on this briefly is because Ms. Franzen did a phenomenal job leading that whole meeting. And it just made me feel so comfortable in how the leadership from those of you who are put in that role, when residents come, they want to feel connected and they want to feel like you really care about what they have to say. And the meeting was just phenomenal. And then that brings me to the next, and our DEI board, which most of you know, that I publicly came out and made some challenges. Well, what do I always teach? When you're wrong, just stand up and just say, I made a mistake. I'm wrong. Don't kill me over it. And so I want to say to Susan Hoover, the last meeting that I attended, phenomenal. You see people, diversity, you know I'm kind of big on that, working together, chiming in ideas, and really just being there to hear something new and then give input where they can. And then during some point of it, she even referred to the community. Guys, I'm loving it. Teamwork really does make the dream work. And then, you know, we had our Martin Luther King annual walk, parade, mini march. However, the diversity, equity, and inclusion board members showed their support. We had representation there. Guys, that's all I can ask. Now, I know some folk had no intention on being there. I know some folk, you know, that's just how they roll. I'm good with that. Because the producers of the Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth documentary came and stayed at my home. And we were able to meet with folks. And later in this year, I want to encourage you all to stay connected. Because amongst my peers, we have unanimously agreed that the 500 man and woman march is going to take place on the streets of Norwood, Ohio. Now listen, this isn't downtown Cincinnati, so we have no interest in making it that. So I'm trusting that we're all going to work together. And so this Martin Luther King March was phenomenal. We had city council representation there, just phenomenal. Everyone was on one accord, and I think I've gotten like 100 text messages or calls, at least, saying how excited they were. Some people were driving, they were late, so they didn't want to interrupt, so they just drove by on the streets and were honking. It was beautiful, and I just really want to thank all of you for your support. I even want to thank the haters that just for some reason chose not to show up. And it's okay too, because our events are going to happen because they're good for the city. And so we just want to feel a part of the city. And it's nice when you allow it to happen. So I want to also thank our administration that did not stand in the way of it happening. And I want to leave on this note. We'll give more specifics on the date, but for our Black History Month celebrations, we will have again our annual walk, parade, march, what you want to call it, with Xavier University. And the partners there, we meet on a regular basis. They're excited to be a part of it again. I'm excited to be a part of it again. And again, I'm thanking our administration for allowing these events to happen. So thank God for it. And then with the development that Nick is doing, we've also agreed that we want to highlight in the film some of the Black entrepreneurs that have now been able to go on and go into business for themselves. So God bless you all. If it's too late, I hope not. Happy New Year to all of our residents. God bless you.
Our next request to address council is Natalie Sindelbach.
For sure. So again, hello, my name is Natalie Sindelbach. I'm here to represent Xavier University. One of my big role in this is student government developed. So our student government last term per se, wanted to create a position that allowed a student representative to engage with our Norwood community, to allow students to have experience Norwood in a different way rather than be isolated by the quote Xavier bubble and whatnot. So my main goal through student government is to help engage Xavier students in the neighborhood and to serve as a student liaison between Norwood residents and businesses with Xavier students. Long story short, I'm here to connect students to Norwood and hopefully Norwood neighbors and residents to students. Fun fact, how I got most of my babysitting gigs. Anyway. So again, this is a brand new position, so I'm the very first one. So I'm kind of a guinea pig, trial run. We're still building to see how this position will, exist in further semesters and further terms, whatnot. It will reset in August of 2023. I am a senior, so I will be graduating in May. And student government will interview and elect someone else to come and represent Xavier and to attend meetings and to attend I know we were talking about the Black Lives Matter March with School of Education, and we do the coffee shop event on the corner of Cappy's, and yeah. So on behalf of Student Government Association and Xavier University, we would like to reinforce our sense of community through student engagement with the wonderful things Norwood has to offer. Thank you for your time.
And that concludes our request to address council. Moving on to item K1, third reading of ordinances and resolutions. K1, Norwood Surplus Firearms Elimination Ordinance, establishing that the city of Norwood, Ohio will not participate in any sale or auction of firearms. Mrs. Winterbauer.
Motion for the third reading?
Mrs. Winterbauer, make a motion for the third reading. Mrs. Hoover?
I'll second.
Second by Mrs. Hoover. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Franzen?
Yes.
Mrs. Hoover?
Yes.
Ms. Royce?
Yes.
Mr. Kelch?
Yes.
Mrs. Winterbauer?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Braden?
Yes, sir.
All members present, voting aye, the motion passes.
Norwood Surplus Firearms Elimination Ordinance, establishing that the city of Norwood, Ohio will not participate in any sale or auction of firearms.
Mr. Thompson.
Move to pass the ordinance.
Motion by Mr. Thompson to pass the ordinance. Mrs. Winterbauer.
I second.
Second by Mrs. Winterbauer. Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Franzen?
Yes.
Mrs. Hoover?
Yes.
Ms. Royce?
Yes.
Mr. Kelch?
Yes.
Mrs. Winterbauer?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Braden?
No.
We have 6 ayes, 1 no. The ordinance passes. Moving on to item M1, ordinance approving the application of Playing Card Partners, LLC, Factory 52, for the creation of Community Entertainment District, CED. Mrs. Franzen.
I move we have the first reading of this ordinance.
Motion by Mrs. Franzen to have the first reading. Mr. Kelch?
Second.
Second by Mr. Kelch. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Franzen?
Yes.
Mrs. Hoover?
Yes.
Ms. Royce?
Yes.
Mr. Kelch?
Yes.
Mrs. Winterbauer?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Braden?
Yes, sir.
All members present, voting aye, motion passes.
Ordinance approving the application of Playing Card Partners LLC, Factory 52, for the creation of a Community Entertainment District, CED, under Revised Code Section 4301.80 and declaring an emergency.
Moving on to item M2, ordinance disapproving the application of Playing Card Partners LLC, Factory 52, for the creation of Community Entertainment District. May I have a motion to table this? Mrs. Franzen?
I'll make a motion to table this ordinance.
Motion by Mrs. Franzen. May I have a second? Mrs. Hoover?
I'll second.
Second by Mrs. Hoover. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Franzen?
Yes.
Mrs. Hoover?
Yes.
Ms. Royce?
Yes.
Mr. Kelch?
Yes.
Mrs. Winterbauer?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Braden?
Yes, sir.
All members present, voting aye, motion passes. Moving on to item M3, ordinance repealing Chapter 741, pinball machines. Mr. Thompson.
I'll move we have the first reading of this ordinance in its entirety.
Motion by Mr. Thompson to have the first reading of the ordinance in its entirety. May I have a second? Mrs. Hoover.
I'll second.
Second by Mrs. Hoover. Any discussion? Mr. Thompson.
Right, so the only reason I asked for it in its entirety is I find it to be an interesting piece of old legislation that we've got, and it actually affects things that people might want to do in our community. And so it might be interesting for people to hear what is actually affected by the pinball machine ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Mrs. Franzen.
I also wanted to note that Mr. Andrew Moore was the person who kind of brought this up, and we all agreed that this is an ordinance that is no longer really applicable. And yeah, I think it's an interesting piece of history that, after reading more about it, is very fascinating, not only from here, from other places. So.
Any other discussion? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Franzen?
Yes.
Mrs. Hoover?
Yes.
Ms. Royce?
Yes.
Mr. Kelch?
Yes.
Mrs. Winterbauer?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Braden?
Yes, sir.
All members present, voting aye, the motion passes.
Ordinance repealing Chapter 741 of the Norwood Codified Ordinances entitled Pinball Machines. Whereas Chapter 741 of the Norwood Codified Ordinances establishes licensing and operating requirements for the selling, leasing, renting, operating, or exhibiting of pinball machines, and whereas Section 741.01 defines pinball machines to also include marble machines, bowling machines, shuffleboards, pool tables, video-type arcade machines, gun games, and any similar amusement devices. And whereas Section 741.08 forbids any exhibitor from allowing a person under 18 years of age from playing or using such amusement devices. And whereas Section 741.99 makes any violation a third-degree misdemeanor. And whereas video arcade-type games are available on most cell phones and a variety of other portable devices in the possession of most adults and many minors. And whereas the conditions and concerns that led council enactment Chapter 741 no longer exist, now therefore be it ordained by the council of the city of Norwood, state of Ohio, that Section 1, Chapter 741 of the Codified Ordinances of the city of Norwood entitled Pinball Machines is hereby repealed. Section 2, any license fee that has been paid since January 1, 2023 shall be refunded to the payer.
Thank you, Mr. Gears. Moving on to item M4, resolution creating 2054-2511 Highland Demo Grant Fund and declaring an emergency. Mrs. Winterbauer.
Motion to suspend the rules and have all three readings?
Motion to suspend the rules and have all three readings. May I have a second? Mr. Thompson?
A second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Franzen?
Yes.
Mrs. Hoover?
Yes.
Ms. Royce?
Yes.
Mr. Kelch?
Yes.
Mrs. Winterbauer?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Braden?
Yes, sir.
All members present voting aye, the motion passes.
Resolution creating 2054-2511 Highland Demo Grant Fund and declaring an emergency. Resolution creating 2054-2511 Highland Demo Grant Fund and declaring an emergency. Resolution creating 2054-2511 Highland Demo Grant Fund and declaring an emergency.
Mrs. Winterbauer.
Motion to pass the resolution?
Motion by Mrs. Winterbauer to pass the resolution. May I have a second? Mrs. Franzen.
I second.
Second by Mrs. Franzen. Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Franzen.
Yes.
Mrs. Hoover.
Yes.
Ms. Royce.
Yes.
Mr. Kelch.
Yes.
Mrs. Winterbauer.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Brady.
Yes, sir.
All members present, voting aye, resolution passes.
Okay. I'm caught up now. Thank you.
Members of council, I'm going to go back to item M1. Mr. Moore has brought to my attention that this has to be passed within 75 days. I'll let Mr. Moore speak more on this, but we would have to have a resolution to this evening rather than one reading. Mr. Moore, would you care to comment, please?
Thank you, Mr. President. After the council had the first reading and we were talking about the pinball machine ordinance, Mr. Powers, the Service Safety Director, said, don't we have to pass that tonight? And he pulled up the part of the code, and I got the part of the code here. Within 75 days after the date of application is filed with the mayor, blah, 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 shall approve or disapprove the application. So council's got to pass it tonight, or you have to approve it or disapprove it tonight, which is the last meeting before that 75 days ends. So one way or the other. So if council wants to actually, council does have to pull up one of those two and redo it and pass it. One of the two. You should pass one of the two tonight.
The motion was by Mrs. Franzen and the second was by Mr. Kelch to have the first reading.
I'll amend my second.
I'll amend mine as well to suspend the rules and have all three readings tonight.
We have a motion by Mrs. Franzen to amend her motion to suspend the rules and have all three readings, seconded by Mr. Kelch. Any discussion? Any questions? Mrs. Winterbauer.
I have one question for the Service Safety Director.
Mr. Powers, we have a question for you, sir.
So just a quick question on if we do want to change this in any way going on in the future, what would that require? And then I was looking to, if we did want to do another CED somewhere else, would we have to have an investor do, there was like, was it $70 million? Is that true? I just wanted to kind of clarify those before we vote.
So I've not actually been through an amendment process on, but my understanding is that you can come back, do another ordinance to expand it or contract it. In terms of doing another one, there are several different provisions that apply. Some of those are based on population. Some of those are based on the amount of investment that's going on in a particular area. One of those thresholds for population is 20,000. So we're sitting right underneath that. The likelihood is that with these new developments, these new residential developments, we're going to get pushed over that. That is based on census numbers, so you have to wait for that to come back out. But this is likely, for the medium term, I would say, to be the one opportunity to do a community entertainment district, but probably not our only opportunity to do one.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Powers. Any other questions? So we have a motion by Mrs. Franzen, second by Mr. Kelch to suspend the rules and have all three readings. Please call the roll.
Mrs. Franzen.
Yes.
Mrs. Hoover.
Yes.
Ms. Royce.
Yes.
Mr. Kelch.
Yes.
Mrs. Winterbauer.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Brady.
Yes, sir.
Ordinance approving the application of Playing Card Partners LLC, Factory 52, for the creation of a Community Entertainment District, CED, under Revised Code Section 4301.80 and declaring an emergency. Ordinance approving the application of Playing Card Partners LLC, Factory 52, for the creation of a Community Entertainment District, CED, under Revised Code Section 4301.80 and declaring an emergency. Ordinance approving the application of Playing Card Partners LLC, Factory 52, for the creation of a Community Entertainment District, CED, under Revised Code Section 4301.80 and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Mr. Gears. Mrs. Franzen.
I move that we pass the ordinance.
Motion by Mrs. Franzen to pass the ordinance. May I have a second? Ms. Royce.
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Royce. Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Franzen.
Yes.
Mrs. Hoover.
Yes.
Ms. Royce.
Yes.
Mr. Kelch.
Yes.
Mrs. Winterbauer.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Braden.
Yes, sir.
All members present, voting aye, the ordinance passes. Moving on to item M5, resolution granting Fund 2053 Storefront Facade Improvement Grant and declaring an emergency. Mr. Brady.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to have all three readings of the resolution and declaring an emergency.
Motion by Mr. Brady to have all three readings tonight. May I have a second? Mrs. Winterbauer.
Any second?
Second by Mrs. Winterbauer. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Franzen.
Yes.
Mrs. Hoover.
Yes.
Ms. Royce.
Yes.
Mr. Kelch.
Yes.
Mrs. Winterbauer.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Braden.
Yes, sir.
All members present, voting aye, the motion passes.
Resolution creating Fund 2053 Storefront Facade Improvement Grant and declaring an emergency. Resolution creating Fund 2053 Storefront Facade Improvement Grant and declaring an emergency. Resolution creating Fund 2053 Storefront Facade Improvement Grant and declaring an emergency.
Mrs. Winterbauer.
Motion to pass the resolution?
Motion by Mrs. Winterbauer to pass the resolution. May I have a second? Mr. Kelch.
Second.
Second by Mr. Kelch. Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Franzen.
Yes.
Mrs. Hoover.
Yes.
Ms. Royce.
Yes.
Mr. Kelch.
Yes.
Mrs. Winterbauer.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Braden.
Yes.
All members present, voting aye, the resolution passes. Moving on to item M6, a resolution celebrating the month of February 2023 as Black History Month in the city of Norwood, Ohio. Mr. Thompson.
I would move we have all three readings of this resolution and have a sort of special request. It's a long resolution, so I'm not going to ask for you to read it. But I would like for you to read the be it resolved point at the end of the resolution in whole once.
Motion by Mr. Thompson to suspend the rules, have all three readings, including the, what was it? Oh, forgive me.
From beyond be it resolved.
Beyond be it resolved. Mrs. Hoover.
I second.
Second by Mrs. Hoover. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Franzen.
Yes.
Mrs. Hoover.
Yes.
Ms. Royce.
Yes.
Mr. Kelch.
Yes.
Mrs. Winterbauer.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Braden.
Yes, sir.
All members present, voting aye, the motion passes.
A resolution celebrating the month of February 2023 as Black History Month in the city of Norwood, Ohio. Be it resolved by the Council of the City of Norwood, State of Ohio, that it acknowledges that all people in the city of Norwood are the recipients of the wealth of history provided by Black culture, recognizes the importance of Black History Month as an opportunity to reflect on the complex history of the United States, including the city of Norwood, while remaining hopeful and confident about the path ahead, acknowledges the significance of Black History Month as an important opportunity to commemorate the tremendous contributions of African Americans to the history of the United States, including the city of Norwood, encourages the celebration of Black History Month to provide a continuing opportunity for all people in the city of Norwood to learn from the past and understand the experiences that have shaped the United States, agrees that while the United States began as a divided country, that the United States must honor the contribution of all pioneers in the United States who have helped to ensure the legacy of the great United States and move forward with purpose, united tirelessly as a nation indivisible with liberty and justice for all, and declares February 2023 to be Black History Month in Norwood, Ohio, to encourage our residents to learn about Black history.
Thank you, Mr. Gears.
A resolution celebrating the month of February 2023 as Black History Month in the city of Norwood, Ohio. A resolution celebrating the month of February 2023 as Black History Month in the city of Norwood, Ohio.
Thank you, Mr. Gears. Ms. Weiss?
I move we pass resolution.
Motion by Ms. Weiss to pass the resolution. Mrs. Hoover?
I'll second.
Second by Mrs. Hoover. Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Franzen?
Yes.
Mrs. Hoover?
Yes.
Ms. Royce?
Yes.
Mr. Kelch?
Yes.
Mrs. Winterbauer?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Braden?
Yes, sir.
All members present, the resolution passes. Moving on to item M7, ordinance authorizing the Safety Service Director to enter into an agreement not to exceed $150,000 to replace a failed 24-inch storm sewer alongside westbound State Route 562 and declaring an emergency. Mr. Thompson.
Move we suspend the rules and have all three readings.
Motion by Mr. Thompson to suspend the rules and have all three readings. May I have a second? Mr. Kelch.
Second.
Second by Mr. Kelch. Any discussion?
That's them. They're mean to you.
I don't know if Mr. Powers wanted to talk on this at all. I know a lot of people have noticed that the road's been shut down. The force?
Bring back up. He's got backup with him.
I'm sure he does.
So, we provided some photos for council this evening. Take a look at this packet. This will show you some of what's going on inside 562.
Correct.
I'll let Clint give a better explanation of what we see in those photos.
Clint Zimmerman, Superintendent of Public Works. So for this particular one, this is dealing with the, there's a failed storm sewer alongside 562. This is not the closure of the underpass of Forest. That will be the next one that's coming up. But this is equally important. It's right alongside, just to the west of the Forest Avenue Bridge, alongside westbound 562. Represents a failed 24-inch storm sewer that's caused a large open chasm. And it's, at this point, if it gets any worse, it could affect the structural integrity of the bridge. Plus, we also have a 12-inch water main that runs right through the area. It's undermining that as well. Unfortunately, it is what it is. It's an old, constructed between 1970 and 1973 metal corrugated pipe that's past its estimated useful life. So that's where we're at.
Mrs. Hoover.
I'm curious, how long are you expecting this project would take?
Trying to sit down. On the availability of the pipe, we're probably going to be going back with a high-density polymer pipe. Depending on the availability of the pipe, I would estimate probably 2 weeks from beginning to end, maybe a little less. It would mean the closure of the ash ramp from westbound 562. But there's no way we can get around that. That's ODOT rules.
Would that be closed for about 2 weeks while it's being
Correct.
done? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, they would be able to actually stage on that part of the ramp, so it would keep us from actually closing a lane on 562. We could just close the ramp, and that would be the end of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion by Mr. Thompson, a second by Mr. Kelch to suspend the rules and have all three readings. Please call the roll.
Mrs. Franzen?
Yes.
Mrs. Hoover?
Yes.
Ms. Royce?
Yes.
Mr. Kelch?
Yes.
Mrs. Winterbauer?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Braden?
Yes, sir.
All members present voting aye, the motion passes.
Ordinance authorizing the Safety Service Director to enter into an agreement not to exceed $150,000 to replace a failed 24-inch storm sewer alongside westbound State Route 562 and declaring an emergency. Ordinance authorizing the Safety Service Director to enter into an agreement not to exceed $150,000 to replace a failed 24-inch storm sewer alongside westbound State Route 562 and declaring an emergency. Ordinance authorizing the Safety Service Director to enter into an agreement not to exceed $150,000 to replace a failed 24-inch storm sewer alongside westbound State Route 562 and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Braden.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to pass the ordinance, please.
Motion to pass the ordinance by Mr. Braden. Have a second? Ms. Weiss?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Royce. Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Franzen?
Yes.
Mrs. Hoover?
Yes.
Ms. Royce?
Yes.
Mr. Kelch?
Yes.
Mrs. Winterbauer?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Braden?
Yes, sir.
All members present voting aye. The ordinance passes. Moving on to M8. Ordinance authorizing the Safety Service Director to enter into an agreement not to exceed $205,000 to replace a failed 42-inch storm sewer along Forest Avenue and declaring an emergency. Mrs. Winterbauer.
Motion to suspend the rules and have all three readings?
Motion by Mrs. Winterbauer to suspend the rules and have all three readings. May I have a second? Mrs. Franzen.
I second.
Second by Mrs. Franzen. Any discussion? Mr. Powers, Mr. Zimmerman? Did you want to talk about this one as well?
Glenn loves getting up there.
He's like, oh, me.
So the pictures that we have here, we have some exterior stuff where it shows like the large slab of concrete that has sunk. As we all know, that's a large cut through for a lot of very large trucks coming in out of Siemens, Factory 52. It's a major thoroughfare. But the one I want you to pay attention to is one where it shows I televised the interior of the pipe, and it shows there's some, I guess, some purple arrows marking where those are. If you look right where the point of the arrow is, it shows a different discoloration, like maybe tan. That is actual soil. That's the separation between two pieces of pipe, so that's soil. And then the second one is an even larger section of soil where the pipe has completely dislodged and dropped. On one of the pictures, you'll see like a small void where the concrete seam is. You can see where it's hollow underneath. Excuse me, the gentleman that I was out there with when we were initially inspecting the pipe had a probing rod that was about 5.5 feet tall with a T-handle on it. And he put it down in there and it dropped all the way to the handle. So it's at least 5 feet deep. Given the depth of the pipe, it could be up to 8 or 9 feet deep. So at that point, we had no choice but to close a lane. With the ODOT rules, you can't close one lane. You have to close both lanes unless you have flaggers 24/7. So we had to shut the lane down for safety reasons. Unfortunately, that's the reason why Forest Avenue is currently shut down to through traffic.
Any questions? Mrs. Hoover.
Same question. What's the time frame estimation?
This is probably going to be a little longer because 24-inch pipe for the other project, probably going to be a little more reasonable to get. 42-inch is kind of an oddball size. So our engineers are working right now to see what sourcing that material is going to take. We're not really sure at this point, but I would say once we get the material, you're looking at least 2 to 3 weeks. So I don't really have a solid timeline for you on the sourcing material as of yet.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Braden?
Oh, thank you, Mr. President. Is there anything could have been done previously when this was installed to prevent this, or is this just erosion and this is just what happens over time? I'm thinking 1980-something is when this was installed.
We were thinking 80, with some conversations we had, I'm trying to pin it down between 84, 86, right around in that area, I believe. The main difference is like the corrugated metal pipe is still able to be used. It still meets spec for several state projects and whatnot. The problem is what they're using today has usually like a zinc oxide coating on it or a polymer coating, which incredibly extends the life of that project. This is just raw steel. So it has an estimated useful life right around 35 to 40 years. We've hit about that 35-year mark. And at some point, could something have been done when it was installed other than putting in a better pipe? I don't know that anything else could have been done.
Can I follow up, sir?
Sure.
Thank you. Yeah, if I can indulge, I just want to, if I can share something. 1980-something, I remember when this was being done. And this was one of my routes. I was on my way to Waterworks. And if it's okay for me to share, I don't know, I'm 13-something, I don't know what year this is, but the big pile of debris, sand here, when they were digging this up. I can remember like it was yesterday, and I can tell you why here in just a second. I see these metal girdles, they're sitting off to the side, they haven't been installed yet, and I was very athletic as a young man, and I would stand up here, and I think that was when I was mastering the art of my double backflip, and I would stand up here, and I'd hit a double backflip into the sand, because I wouldn't get hurt. Whenever I landed, I was in the sand, so I remember it like it was yesterday. And the reason why I remember it is because I was on my way to Waterworks. We had a 10-foot diving board back then, right? We don't have a 10-foot no more, right? I smacked my nose on the diving board that night, put my nose up here. It was a terrible situation, but that night, I can remember as that was being built, 1980-something, like it was yesterday. So anyway, I wanted to share that. Thanks for the time. So,
Thank you, Mr. Brady. Mrs. Franson.
I unfortunately was not alive during that time.
I appreciate that, Ms. Francis.
Sorry, that was not my actual point.
Plenty of gray to show that.
I was wondering, so obviously there are a number of these pipes throughout the city that are probably in a similar state and have had a usable lifespan of a similar amount of time.
Correct.
Is there any plans to try to replace these pipes before they fail, or is it kind of just such an extensive project that it would be hard to know where to start? Or I didn't know if there were any issues that you could see coming up that you might want to try to get ahead of, if that's even possible.
And I understand exactly where you're coming from, and that is something we need to take a look at what we have and try to maybe do our best to try to identify those. The larger pipes on newer projects towards the end of the 60s, beginning of 70s, where we're seeing more of the corrugated metal pipe. A lot of your like 15-inch and smaller usually ends up being vitreous clay pipe, which, as long as your soil compaction rate isn't crazy, then it can usually last centuries. I mean, there's some of the drainage around the Roman Coliseum is still intact, its whole vitreous clay pipe. But this particular material seems to have been used widespread in a certain time frame, so identifying those projects that would have been done during that specific time frame would be a good place to start. Getting to the point we're at now, they could be a candidate for a relining process, but what we've seen so far is the ones that we are finding, the bottoms of them are already gone. And once the bottom's gone, there's no way to reline it, really. So
We've replaced two. This is the third one. Ash was one.
this will be the third one just on
And also
562.
four. So we've already replaced, but there are probably more out there.
Correct.
Are you aware of any programs or funding sources that would be able to be used to replace these type of pipes? Or is that something maybe a longer conversation for the administration to look at?
Yeah, there are funds that have been earmarked for infrastructure. A very small portion of those are for stormwater. The vast majority of like the federal funds and whatnot usually go towards sanitary sewers and sewage treatment. There's very little that's made available for storm sewer, but absolutely anything that's out there we will pursue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a motion by Mrs. Winterbauer, second by Mrs. Franzen to suspend the rules and have all three readings. Please call the roll.
Mrs. Franzen.
Yes.
Mrs. Hoover.
Yes.
Ms. Royce.
Yes.
Mr. Kelch.
Yes.
Mrs. Winterbauer.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Braden.
Yes, sir.
All members present voting aye, the motion passes.
Ordinance authorizing the Safety Service Director to enter into an agreement not to exceed $205,000 to replace a failed 42-inch storm sewer along Forest Avenue and declaring an emergency. Ordinance authorizing the Safety Service Director to enter into an agreement not to exceed $205,000 to replace a failed 42-inch storm sewer along Forest Avenue and declaring an emergency. Ordinance authorizing the Safety Service Director to enter into an agreement not to exceed $205,000 to replace a failed 42-inch storm sewer along Forest Avenue and declaring an emergency.
Ms. Weiss.
I move we pass the ordinance.
Motion by Ms. Weiss to pass the ordinance. Mr. Braden.
Second.
Second by Mr. Braden. Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Franzen.
Yes.
Mrs. Hoover.
Yes.
Ms. Royce.
Yes.
Mr. Kelch.
Yes.
Mrs. Winterbauer.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Braden.
Yes, sir.
All members present voting aye, the resolution passes. The ordinance passes. Moving on to item N, administrative reports. Mayor Schneider.
Thank you, Mr. President. First and foremost, I'd like to thank each of the council members for their yes votes, except for one, but for their yes votes on the ordinance for the Norwood surplus firearms elimination. I do think this is a critically important time for us to be focusing and paying attention to what's going on with firearms. We've become, and I think it has to be important to our community that we recognize that there's a proliferation of firearms out there. And it's fine, concealed carry, you can do whatever you want with your guns. But when we see children and we see people getting shot constantly, every day, we become numb to it. We become immune. We're like, it's no big deal. It's another shooting. But we can't let that happen. And we can't let our society, we can't let America become a society where you can go and we're seeing it every day on the news where there are shootings occurring. And we're seeing every day on the news where some kid picked up a gun and was walking around and it discharged. And somebody's lost their life, a teacher, or their brother or sister, because somebody wasn't smart enough to put away a firearm. And we have to make sure, we have to take a stand. We as leaders of our community have to take a stand and say, it's too much. And we can't get to the point where we just say, well, that's just the world we live in, it's fine. When somebody says, they show a picture of how many guns a person has on the news, and somebody next to you says, that's not many, I got more than that. You think, holy cow, what do you need 30 firearms for? There's something wrong when people feel they need to have a gun room or a gun lockup with all these. It's just there's something wrong. And we, as leaders, need to look back and say, how can we fix this? How can we help? One of the things that we're going to do, I talked to the chief today and we discussed a few things, but we are going to have a firearms a class. Basically, the class is, I don't care for guns class. I don't care for guns training class. And what it's for is for all those people out there who say, I don't care about guns. If you want to have a gun, feel free to have a gun. But I don't want to have a gun. But if you sit your gun on the coffee table when you come in, if your grandson sits a gun on the coffee table, the people who are in that house need to go, okay, I understand, that shouldn't be there. What do we do to make sure it's not there for when my grandkids come over? And that's what this class will be for, is to talk more about what really is gun safety and gun owners, what should they be doing, and how can we as a society, as mothers and grandmothers and fathers and grandfathers and aunts and uncles, make sure that the guns that are in our possession in the homes are safe. So, the first thing the police would say is, well, you should call a police officer. If there's a gun, if somebody sits a gun there and you don't know what to do with it, you got your grandkids around, call a police officer. I've lived here since 1972. We've never called a police officer to our house. It's just not normal to call the police officers to your house. That's probably the right thing to do, is to call a police officer, but most people are not going to call the police officer. They want to figure out how to. So this class is going to be, it's an hour class that we're going to have at the training academy. And it's to say, what are the things you can do if something happens? And when the guy says, well, I'll just put it on top of the refrigerator, the kids will never find it there. Well, no, that's not actually right, because that's what's happening. Kids are finding guns. They're playing hide and seek, and they go in the closet, and guess what? There's the gun, and they walk out with it. So it'll be a class more to talk about the safety and those things. And I think that we all have to stop when we hear these crazy stories and these crazy things going on and say, what could have stopped that from happening? It's not, we know it's not going to be the elimination of guns. That's not going to happen in America. That's not going to happen. It's not, but we can make them safer. And we can really push on a philosophy of making it safer for our children and for people that really don't know much about guns. And that's, quite frankly, a lot of the gun owners don't know much about their weapons anyways. I mean, even them getting more training on those. So that's an important part, and we're going to have that class. That class is going to be on February 11th from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. You'll see it promoted. It's for Norwood residents who really don't care for guns, but would like to know a little bit more about the safety of them and how to keep them safe in their home if there is one in their home. The other thing, infrastructure maintenance. And I know I sort of sound like I'm on a roll with this infrastructure maintenance and repair. The upkeep that Clint and Noah were talking about is continuous. And I know you as the chairperson of the infrastructure committee, you're interested in how we can plan for these things, because this is two major expenses. We knew one was coming at us. That's the one where at 562 at the Forest Avenue Bridge. We really didn't realize that the underpass undermining was going on. That's a huge amount of money that's going to be spent to make that safe and passable again. But infrastructure and that upkeep is going to be consistent. I mean, I'd much rather put $200,000 to repave a road than to replace this 42-inch pipe, but it's got to be repaired. And we're never going to see it. You know, when they finish that job, we're going to drive over that $200,000, but we're not going to see it. And that's the hard part about it, but we have to do it. So that's an important part. And then we talked about, or there was discussion about Xavier and allowing people to attend and all that stuff. We're always open. Xavier students, please come to our council meetings. Most of them are boring. It's much like watching paint dry. It's all just sort of, but we're open. And please do come to our meetings. We have no problem with that. And you don't have to be in a group. You can come just as a community member. If you live in Norwood, come to it. Even if you don't live in Norwood and you want to know more about just local municipal government, please come to them. So there's never, we're not closing meetings off to anybody. Feel free, and please tell everybody that you know they can come here anytime. It's sort of interesting sometimes, you know, some portions of it. When Nick's talking, it's really interesting to hear about Factory 52, where we're going to have a big New Year's celebration next year with the ball drop and everything. Right? We are, yeah. And then the other thing I want to do is applaud the efforts by community members who bring people together. Each one carries a torch in a different way. There's so many different community functions and different things going on. And I think it's important that we do have diversity here. And, it's really nice to see all these different things going on. Celebrating the culture that we maybe came from a different country, the culture that has been built here. I applaud those efforts, and I know they'll continue to go on. There's no stopping them. It's great, and I think people have a lot of fun at those celebrations. So continue doing those. It's nothing but good for our community and for us to learn more and be more diverse. Let's see. I think that's all I had on here. Oh, snow control. I did want to talk real quickly about snow and ice control. Public Works gets out there pretty quickly, but there are different protocols on it. If it's below 30-something degrees, 31 degrees, the salt's not going to work very well. So when you have that really frigid temperature, they drive past and the salt stuff's not being spread out. It's because it's not effective. And they do try to plow on, once the snow they're watching weather radar just like you guys are. If they can not plow and wait another hour for the snow to stop and then go out and plow, that's the proper use of our resources. So there are definitely times where you look at it and say, well, they should come out and plow. Well, if the snow's still hitting, it's still coming down pretty hard, they take off 2 inches, and then they've got to come back and take 2 inches more off a half an hour, 45 minutes later. Wait the 45 minutes, go out and plow it all, and you're effective. We got 60 miles of streets to maintain here. So I guess ultimately give them the benefit of the doubt. They are doing their best. They have certain protocols that they have to follow to get the streets cleared for everyone. And if you don't have to go out, don't go out. I was planning on going shopping at 9 o'clock in the morning to get stuff. It's Sunday morning at 9 o'clock. You don't have to go shopping at 9 o'clock just because you figured you wanted to do that yesterday. So just keep in mind, give them a little bit of space, give them a little bit of time. I think they do a great job, but there's a lot of different factors that come into play when it comes to snow and ice control. So that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Anyone have any questions or comments for Mayor Schneider? Thank you again.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item O, unfinished business. Do we have any unfinished business this evening? Mr. Thompson.
Yeah, I just want to take a minute to talk a little, probably should have done this when we did the resolution, but want to talk a little bit about the Recognizing African American History Month. Reason, of course, I asked for the be it resolved part. Some of the things it says in there acknowledges, that NORD is a recipient of the wealth of history provided by Black culture. It recognizes the importance of Black History Month, the opportunity to reflect on the complex history of the United States. Acknowledges the significance of Black History Month and the significance that African Americans have made to our history. These are all the kind of things we encourage us to learn about, and as adults, it can be difficult. It's exactly the kind of things you would learn in an African American Studies course. And one of the reasons it's very important that we as a public body speak out about these things and encourage people to do this is because there are other public bodies in our country that are actually doing the opposite. In Florida this week, they rejected AP African American Studies from high school curriculum. So as we as a body are suggesting to people that this is an important part of our history, it's an important part of our shared culture, it's important to learn about these things and to share about these things, to learn from the mistakes of our past and to move toward a brighter future. There are elements within our society who wants to ignore those things and wants to gloss over those things and wants to say that those things are not important. And so I'm very glad every time, we honestly, we haven't been recognizing African American History Month very often. I brought the first resolution 3 years ago. It's still very important. It still matters that we say these things. And it matters that we take a stand about these things. So I'm happy we've always passed it unanimously. Council has always supported this, and I'm happy that we have. And I just wanted to say the community out there that there are reasons that we do these resolutions. They don't have any bearing on city business or anything, but it's very, very important that we take a stand on these particular issues. And I'm glad, and I thank everybody on council for doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Any other unfinished business? Mrs. Hoover.
Thank you. Also want to thank you very much. I remember years ago I was watching the council meeting when you made that resolution, and that meant a lot to me as a resident who hasn't always felt welcome in this community. So thank you. Want to share that we did have a successful MLK Day of Service. That was really exciting. My family volunteered at the Salvation Army. My son actually did some shopping while he was also working. He's really good at multitasking. We're hoping to continue this every year, and hopefully it will get bigger and more robust. There is still time to participate in the virtual blood drive. A lot of people are a little confused about what a virtual blood drive is. Unfortunately, there is still a needle involved. But what that means is you go on your own to Hawksworth, go on their website and go to the donor portal and make an appointment. When you go in for your appointment, you say you're donating for the city of Norwood, and they will write down the code. There is a code, it's on our city website. At the end of the month, which will just next week, we'll have a total for how many donors donated on behalf of Norwood, and we'll be having random drawings from those who've donated. We have some Cappy's gift certificates and a $50 gas card from Kroger so far, and I'm trying to gather some more. I'll be donating for the very first time. I've always been not allowed because I lived in England during Mad Cow, which is kind of random. So this will be my very first time donating, and I'm part horrified and excited. So I would encourage everyone to do that. A blood drive is actually something that has been connected with the MLK Day for many, many years, and I hope that we can also incorporate that into Norwood's culture as well. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hoover. Any other unfinished business this evening? Mr. Brady.
Oh, thank you, Mr. President. So I just wanted to mention real quick, for others out there that feel like me when it comes to the gun situation here, we've legislated tonight, I don't know, $500,000 worth of work to be done on our infrastructure. And then we've also, not that it's going to be a lot of money, but we've also agreed to destroy money that could be used for that infrastructure. So it's kind of a double-edged sword for me and I just really wanted to make a public announcement that if you're out there and you are like-minded like myself, that really think that the Constitution is important and that our right to bear arms shall not be infringed upon. And that's exactly what it says, and I feel like that's what's happening. I I couldn't tell if it was a, if Mr. Snyder had if this was a gun haters club or if this was a gun safety. I couldn't really tell. So I just want to implore people out there that are like-minded, like myself, and, we have an election coming up, and if this bothers you as much as it bothers me, I would ask that you get in touch with me, and I will help you make a difference right now, this election, and we can fix some of this. But, that's all I wanted to say about that. Thank you.
Any other unfinished business this evening? Mr. Thompson?
I'd like to comment on Mr. Braden's statement. We're not making a statement on the Second Amendment. Nobody's right to bear arms is being infringed in any way. What we're saying is we don't want to sell firearms as a city, and I happen to agree with that. The city isn't in the habit of selling goods for profit. I don't know that we do that. Do we sell any goods for profit on a regular basis? I don't believe we do. So I don't know why it would be such a big deal to say that we don't want to sell firearms for profit. There have been 39 mass shootings in the last 24 days in America, 39 mass shootings. And it's 39 mass shootings with many numbers of people killed within those mass shootings, not just 39 deaths. Gun violence is a problem in America. We can pretend that it's not. You can say guns don't people kill people, but I bet every person who's seen somebody walk into a school with a gun wish they had walked in with a knife or a baseball bat. Guns allow people to kill a lot more people, a lot more efficiently, and a lot easier. I have no problem with people owning guns, but I also have no problem with the city not selling them to the public and not encouraging or even having the city, through the classes, encourage safe firearm usage. That's totally fine. Just the fact that you're making it into a Second Amendment issue, when really it's not that at all. It's a should the city be in the business of selling firearms to the public issue. It's an election year, and you're making it clear.
Can I respond, please?
Gentlemen, I just want to remind you, all questions and comments are to the chair, okay? Mr. Braden.
Thank you, Mr. President. Appreciate that. Yeah, just to respond, and you're entitled to your opinion, and I respect all opinions on this panel. I just want to make that clear, every one of them. However, I'm aware that this is a mostly symbolic gesture, that this body is basically doing this because it makes them feel better to do, and I'm aware of that. And I just would like to say that, no one likes mass shootings, especially me. However, if you take away all mass shootings, you still will have 90% of homicides happening. So that's only my point there, because I'm not going to go any farther than that. So it's a symbolic gesture, and I feel like it is one against what it does is it chips away at our rights and it chips away a little bit at a time. So today you've done that, and yes, we've sold all kinds of stuff this year, last year, and the year before in auctions and made all kinds of money. We've liquidated all kinds of things in the city as we fix it. So I'm aware it's mostly symbolic. I realize that it just chips away a little more at our civil liberties and rights. So that's where I'm at. I respect everyone's opinion here today. It just differs from my own. Thank you.
Ms. Weiss.
I feel like it is worth mentioning that these guns were forfeited either in the commission of a crime or because that person was not allowed to own guns anymore. These aren't guns that are being taken away from people who are allowed to own them. I would just like to also point that out.
Any other questions? Any other comments? Any other unfinished business? Then we'll move on to new business. Any new business tonight? Ms. French.
Hi, just two items. One is that, as mentioned with the winter weather coming up, another freeze-thaw cycle means more potholes are going to be coming up. And yes, I'm aware, there are already potholes in Norwood. We all know. But if you see a new one that's come up, especially after the snow goes away, that's when potholes come up, is when there's a freeze-thaw cycle and the cracks expand and contract with the temperature. So please be sure to use SeeClick Fix. It's an app you can get on your phone, and you can also do it online to tell Public Works that there's a new pothole, if they haven't already noticed, they can at least give you updates on when it's going to be filled. And usually, at least for me, it's helpful to know that someone is aware that a pothole has appeared and they're going to do something about it. So that's number one. Number two is I need to call a Parks Committee meeting because we need to discuss the possibility of using capital funding from the state, or rather applying for capital funding from the state to do some updates and some improvements to some of our parks. This is something I wanted to discuss with the committee and see what they would be interested in doing. We have some ideas from talking with some of the administration, but I want that to be out in the open. So I was going to look at my phone and see when I'm available, because that's important. Apparently, being the chair, you have to be at your committee. It's very strange. So if folks are available on the 1st or 2nd, which is a Wednesday or Thursday, at any time after 6, that would be great for me.
I will not be available either of those days.
Would Tuesday,
The 31st?
the 31st, maybe?
I am.
I can after 6.
You can after 6. Mr. Kelch, you good on Wednesday, or sorry, Tuesday the 31st?
Yep.
I'll say Tuesday, the 31st at 6 then, if that's okay with everyone. Great. I will check and make sure that we have a room, and if we don't have a room, then I will email you all and try to figure out a different day. Because I've learned you have to check to make sure the rooms are not being used, apparently. Again, steep learning curve for the old Franzen here. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Franzen. Mrs. Hoover.
I would like to call a housing meeting for Monday, February 13th at 6 p.m. We're going to be having a brief presentation on affordability from some local experts. We also have a couple other items from the heating and cooling, the 513 relief, and also some other housing opportunities that Ms. Royce and I have been discussing.
Any other new business? Then we'll move on to adjournment. May I have a motion to adjourn? Mrs. Winterbauer.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion by Mrs. Winterbauer, second by Mr. Thompson. Please call the roll.
Mrs. Franzen?
Yes.
Mrs. Hoover?
Yes.
Ms. Royce?
Yes.
Mr. Kelch?
Yes.
Mrs. Winterbauer?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes, sir.
All members present voting aye. Motion passes. We are adjourned.